First of all, I should probably apologize. I probably look and sound like death warmed over. I'm recovering from the flu. I took to bed on Saturday, and it's now Friday, and I'm starting to feel human again. Anyway, the point of this is, I'm really pretty honest and negative about what can be done about avoidance. So I wanted to talk about how you can construct a therapy that works for you. I took DBT, and it was a complete disaster. But okay, first of all, I don't think that DBT works for avoidant people because of the stress of having to do the classes. But I do have to admit, my classes were, or whatever they call them, it was really, really a bad situation. Basically because the company that was putting them on was trying to make money. And so they have all these rules when you join DBT that, you can't be altered, so you can't be high or drunk, and you have to be there on time. I mean, actually, I had like these wicked panic attacks. I kept losing my card in parking lots and stuff like that. I couldn't find it because I was informed that I absolutely had to be there on time. It was, they wouldn't accept you if you were 30 seconds late, and I mean, it was so unbelievably stressful. And then when I actually got to my class, they were doing anything they could to fill the spaces, which is why they put avoidant people in there. Well, me, one. There was also somebody who was extremely agoraphobic. I don't think that DBT was a really good match for that either. They were just basically trying to shove bodies in there, and they were accepting everything. So they did have a person who, one that was show up halfway through the class, and they were like, oh, okay, come on in. And one that was never sober and would go and yap, yap, yap the entire time. So, and then the other part of DBT is you have the class, and then you are also supposed to have an hour of actual therapy, because you're not supposed to talk about your real life stuff in a DBT class because it's too triggering. Well, my therapy person I was assigned for this another hour of therapist wasn't interested in hearing about what was going on in my life and how I was reacting. It was really bad. So I don't think it works for avoidant people. Even I don't think even if you had a good class, it would be good for avoidant people. But it's not really considered straight doing DBT, but they do have a lot of workbooks. And this is probably a really strange thing that you're probably like, oh, what? You're doing what? I'm actually teaching somebody the tenets of DBT at the moment, like one-on-one in person. And first of all, I think if you're going to do that, and this is going to sound crazy and mad, there's sort of, how should I put it? There's God, I don't even know. See, I should wait till I'm like 100% before I make videos again. But I don't know. There's something about having another person there where, well, there's two ways that you would go about it. You either have your BS meter going haywire because you, even in the presence of somebody else, are trying to keep up the front, or in which case, if that's how you do it, then there's no way that DBT therapy would ever work for you. But the other thing is that, and this is what's happening with this other person I'm working with, is they're more likely to sort of pay attention in every way, and be honest about what they're doing, and actually, not just read it really fast and skim over it, but to really stop and pay attention to what's going on, and it's making an impact. I don't think that DBT works if it's just one-on-one. I don't think it works for an avoidant person into classes either. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, if you do it on your own entirely without another person, I don't think DBT works. And I don't think it works for avoidant people in a class. But if there's like a partner thing where you've got two people doing it at the same time and there's like an accountability between the two of you, I think it can work. But that's my opinion. The point that I'm rambling about is what I think really would apply. Because avoidant people, they get caught up in their emotions, and everybody does, but avoidant people really do. I mean, it takes over, you know, your sort of idea of what's going to happen, this pre-thinking that you do to figure out what's going on, and then also the disappointment, even if you're expecting it to be worse than what it is, if it doesn't go along with what you're expecting, that messes you up too, and it just throws you off. And the thing is that what DBT, the big thing I think that applies for avoidant people is, if you're going to look it up, the technical term for it is called wise mind. This is stupid, but what it does is basically makes you really pay attention to, is this an emotional reaction or is this a factual reaction? And how to do that is to literally say, is there something verifiable, facts, numbers, figures, data that can back up how you're feeling? I mean, is it out of the blue? Is it an interpretation? Or is it a fact? And that when you make decisions, you should try to take into account your emotional reaction and say, okay, this is not something I can do right now. Hey, if that's it, then that's it. But also the facts. You know, I can't go talk in front of 150 people, so I can't go to this thing tonight. Okay, but the fact is, there's only going to be 5 people there. So you might be reacting as if you're getting all these people, and it's possible there could be all these people, but in reality, there's going to be far fewer. And how does your emotion, how's that reaction happen when you're actually taking the fact of how many real data of what's going on is there? It's hard to practice. You have to really pay attention. I've been saying a while that what people should be trying to do is to really think, okay, is this an actual, authentic, what I believe thought, or is this an avoidant thought? It's the same sort of thing. Is this a factual thought, or is this my reaction, emotional reaction? And you can use those to break it apart. And another thing that's happening, I know somebody who is doing trauma therapy, which is very different from trauma therapy that I have attempted. Trauma therapy that I attempt is basically desensitization, whatever that word is. They try to desensitize you by making you think of some terrible, horrible, hideous memory, trauma from the past over and over and over and over again until it doesn't faze you. Yeah, no. It's never worked for me. All it does is make it worse and worse and worse, because I think that avoidant people, they sort of have this, I call it sticky neural pathways, where you think of something and it's just, you can't get past it. It's just there. So the more you think about it, actually the worse it gets. It's like an allergy, you know, that you might have a mild reaction to it, and then you might have a worse reaction to it, and then the 4th time you encounter it, it could be deadly. I mean, that's basically how I think working with that sort of trauma memory works for avoidant people. At least it does for me. But this person, I think it's like fascinating, and I'm like, tell me more. Let me know how this works for you. They are actually going in and studying how, and they're doing it with a therapist, learning how trauma affects like children, etc. You know, what it does in your brain, what it does physically to you, how like, you know, avoidance is not PTSD, but you know, how they're using that as an example, because of course PTSD they've studied, and they've never studied avoidance. You know, how you have a PTSD type reaction to it, all this stuff, and I'm like, wow. And I personally, I don't know how much that would have an effect. I mean, each people, but this is my point. Everybody reacts kind of differently to these little things. For me, just knowing that, I would be like, okay, yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know how it would affect me personally and how I interact with people. This person's extremely hopeful that that's going to have an effect. And I really, truly hope it does too. And if it does, and I'm like, tell me all about it. I want to know all about it. Of course, I won't hear all about it because it's one person, but I wish. I wish that, well, one, I wish that it would work, and two, that I wish that it could actually get a breakdown of exactly how it worked, because that would be fantastic. My therapy specifically, and I've described this before, the therapy I go to, I don't do like normal therapy, and it's really annoying to my therapists. And I go through them, and they burn out in absolute flaming horrible fashion, in the worst way possible, at the worst timing you would ever imagine, because they get so frustrated with me because they think I'm not changing and I'm not making any progress. And I'm not. I have an avoidant personality disorder that can't be altered. You know, it can be if you catch it when you're young enough before your personality is set, but mine is set, and that's it. So what I use therapy for is twofold, which is, one, it's a regular meeting with another person. Somebody described their therapist as like a paid friend. I wouldn't quite go that far, but it's kind of like that. It's just practice. It's practice talking to people. Practice talking to someone about something that's not as superficial as anything else. And in how that works is, I mean, it's literally like, oh my gosh, I did this week, and I did this week, and I did this week, and I mean, it's literally like practicing how to have a conversation with somebody. And this sounds so pathetic and sad, but it's true. Because I'll talk online in this computer, but there's nobody around. And it's a big, huge difference between talking into a camera when I can go, you know, because I actually never, obviously, y'all should know this. I never, ever look at these videos. I like go through them, I go, okay, good enough, and put it up. And sometimes I think about it afterward, I go, pull it back down. But I don't talk to people. And if I do, it's like a cashier, and they're like, did you find everything tonight? And I'm like, yep. And that's literally it. So talking to somebody else is that. And the other thing is, it's sort of like a life coach situation, which I think it's done really good things for me, and I think it would be a tremendous thing for other people that are avoidant, is to do goal setting and try to figure out, I mean, that sounds so, you know, buzzwordy, but seriously, to try to figure out what you want, what you really want, what you are capable of, because, you know, you're supposed to want this great big huge romance wedding crap. You know what? No, you know, no, wrong. No way. A big huge wedding? No. Absolutely not. There's no way that I would want something like that. You're supposed to want it, though. You're supposed to want a job where you're the supervisor and blah, blah, blah. No. That's what your society tells you you're supposed to want. So if you go to somebody who is doing something like life coaching, that's actually doing what you want, as opposed to, if you go to a life coach, they've usually got their own agenda. So you got to go to an actual therapist that's not going to be trying to push their agenda on you. You got to find one that's willing to work with you, but you can actually figure out what your real actual goals are and start breaking them down, because again, I bet it's hard for everybody, but if you don't have a support system at home, which most avoidant people don't, it's harder to break a goal down and actually get it done. So that's what I use therapy for. So that's 3 different ways of taking a traditional therapy and sort of turning it on its head and making it work for you. And I think that avoidant people have to do that. They have to really pay attention to what they need and what they want. Not do traditional therapy. It doesn't work. like CBT doesn't work, even though that's what they say that you're supposed to do. Make it work for you in a nutshell.